right, back here with Captain Marty in the studio. He's got another one of his great stories for us. Captain, what have you got for us today?
We are going to do a follow-up to a previous story that you can find on our site here that was called Man Overboard Volume 1. We're going to do Man Overboard Volume 2 when I come back. Hey y'all, Captain Marty here to tell you that when my friends are in the market for a new boat engine, repair, or repower, I send them to the best in the business, and that's at Ratcliffe Marine in Belhaven. Ratcliffe Marine is your official Honda outboard dealer. Honda motors are designed to get you on the water fast and get you back to the dock safely and quickly. Ratcliffe Marine is best known as the largest repower center in North Carolina. So when you're in the market for a new motor or you need your Honda service, go to Ratcliffe Marine, 865 Highway 264, Belhaven.
Frisco Woods Campground, a family-owned gem for over 50 years, offers a perfect getaway on Hatteras Island. Whether you prefer tent camping, electric water sites, RV spots, or primitive camping cabins, there's something for everyone. Guests enjoy free hot showers, a refreshing pool, and breathtaking sunsets over the Pamlico Sound. Nestled in nature yet close to local attractions, Frisco Woods Campground provides a peaceful retreat with modern comforts, making it an ideal destination for outdoor enthusiasts and families alike. Book online at the Frisco Woods Campground.com. Frisco Woods Campground, 50 years of memory making on Hatteras Island.
So this story is a story that goes all the way back to 1977 about a friend of mine that I went to high school with, who happened to also be dating my little sister at the time. So I would, in 1977, I was already moved from my home of Daytona Beach, or Ponce Inlet.
Right.
It's the inlet at Daytona Beach. Grew up on the fleet there, and I'd been up here for a couple of years, and I was living up in Kitty Hawk on the beach road in a little bitty mobile home. Me and John Bayless were, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
The famous boat builder. Jimmy Lear is the guy we're talking about. He was a captain on a long line boat, a shark long liner. Now, a long line, if you're a freshwater fisherman, is like a trot line. It's a series, a main line with a series of leaders and hooks, and the shark long lines could be anywhere from the bottom to the surface. Swordfish long lines are closer to the top and usually in deeper water. There's a lot of them. The boat he was on was called the Snow White, and it was part of the Snow White fleet. And it was two head boats and a shark boat.
Okay.
So it was in the fall of the year, and he had gone out shark long lining with a crew of two men. They had fished for about a week and had a load and were ready to come home. Off of Ponce Inlet, Daytona Beach. Now, just so you'll know, Ponce Inlet is the first inlet north of Cape Canaveral where the rockets are launched. Ponce Inlet's the inlet that I grew up at the foot of that lighthouse right there, which is the second tallest lighthouse on the East Coast behind Hatteras. Mm-hmm. So that was my home village, really. It was like the villages down on Hatteras Island. So Jimmy was coming in, and they had put out a couple of, you'll understand this, our listeners may or may not, couple of red feathered jigs on electric reels. And they let them out there about 100 yards behind the boat to try to catch some false albacore on the way in to use for bait on the next trip. So they're fishermen, they're always fishing for something.
Right.
Anyway, Jimmy, the guys were tired, so he told the two crew members, y'all go down and hit the bunk. I'll watch the bait. I'll watch these two reels. I'll hold the wheel. He had the boat on automatic pilot, normal procedure. So they go on down and go to bed. Well, again, it was in the mid-fall of the year, first week of November. So he went down, they went down and went to sleep. They were 15 miles off of Ponce Inlet, off of the shore. So after a while, he went back to the back of the boat. He went to check one of those reels. He was barefoot. Now, if you were ever on my boat, you would know I do not like people barefoot on an offshore boat. But he was barefoot, wearing a pair of baggies and a T-shirt. And when he went back there, he kind of leaned over the reel a little bit, but right at the stern, the boat's going ahead on automatic pilot, no problem. And when he did, a little sea hit the boat, and because he was barefoot, his feet slipped a little bit, and his thighs, the front of his thighs, hit the gunnel, and he pitch-poled right over the stern of the boat.
Oh, wow.
All right, so the boat's headed for shore. The two crew members are sound asleep. He came up in the wake, and the boat was moving away. He reached up and grabbed one of those two lines. How he didn't get a hook in him, I don't know. But he grabbed it, wrapped it around his hands real quick, and held on, hoping that as it screamed drag off of the reel, maybe one of those two guys would hear it and wake up and run out there. But they didn't. It came to the knot.
Oh, no.
And popped. And there he was, 15 miles off Daytona Beach. And it was just a little bit ahead of 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Bad feeling. Now, so I'll ask you, Justin, this question right now. If you had been him in that situation, late in the afternoon, sun going down, what would you have done?
Probably.
Let me give you some choices. Would you have swam or would you have floated and waited?
I would have prayed first.
Good answer.
I would have started there. I likely would have probably tried to do the combination of two, swim, then float as best I can, like back float, and then swim as much as I could, back float again.
I've asked that question over the years a lot, and it's almost equally divided. Because floating, you don't exhaust yourself. You're going to wait. Sooner or later, somebody's going to know he's missing.
Right.
But swimming is taking charge and doing something,
Yeah.
Keeping in mind, now he was an avid surfer. He was a really acclaimed scuba diver. And at the time, he was 21 years old.
Okay.
He was young. So anyway, the boat goes off into the sunset. And Jimmy is like, I'm going to swim after the boat. So that's where he started. And then as the sun went down, what happened on the boat's the amazing part. The two guys just woke up on their own. And when they did, they came out there and realized the captain was missing. They came up out of the forward cabin and they looked up and there were the jetties at Ponce Inlet like a quarter mile in front of them.
Oh, wow.
That boat was headed straight for the jetties on automatic pilot. So they yanked the pilot off, stopped the boat, and that's where the fun really began. And we'll take a little break right here, and I'll come back and tell you how this played out.
Red Drum Tackle in Buxton is the oldest complete tackle shop at Cape Hatteras. And being the closest tackle shop to Cape Point, Red Drum Tackle has been welcoming fishermen to Hatteras Island with a wide selection of bait and tackle, skilled custom rod builds, rod and reel repair, expert knowledge and information since 1974. Red Drum Tackle knows how, when, and where to fish. To acquire this fishing brain power, visit them online at reddrumtackle.com. Red Drum Tackle, the oldest complete tackle shop at Cape Hatteras and the closest to Cape Point in Buxton.
So on the Snow White, the crew got on the radio immediately and put out a mayday, called the Coast Guard, which is stationed at Ponce Inlet on the south side of the inlet. Their dock and all the charter boat docks at the time were on the north side of the inlet where I grew up at the foot of the lighthouse. So they'd been out for 5 days. They were almost out of fuel. So they had no choice but to run the boat themselves up to the fuel dock. Of course, it was just, the sun was just saying every boat in Ponce Inlet, every charter boat, even the head boats, the Coast Guard, everybody that could go jumped on their boats and headed out that inlet because it was getting dark and there's a man out there somewhere. In the meanwhile, while that was going on, Jimmy started swimming until the boat went out of sight. Once the boat went out of sight, he just kept swimming and he followed swimming into the sunset in a general direction. Now, after the sun went down, believe it or not, that lighthouse, you can see it a long ways offshore. He could see the flash of the lighthouse. So he swam for that. Now, you got to keep in mind, in that area, we call them the shrimp boat lanes. But he was swimming across the shrimp boat lanes and never saw a shrimp boat. Of course, it was dark. But that's also the shark lanes where they follow the shrimpers around. And after a while, he started getting really tired and his eyes were hurting. So in the middle of the night, he stuffed his baggies full of seaweed. He came to a grass line and stuffed his baggies full of seaweed to give him some flotation, and he rested briefly. And then he started swimming again. Well, he swam all through the night. Meanwhile, he could see search planes and helicopters. They were all searching north of him. It'd be like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
He could see boats go by. He could hear people's voices on boats that were looking for him, but they were looking just a little bit too far north, thinking, by the way, folks, this is a good lesson to know. They were thinking that the current would be carrying him up the beach because you get that Gulf Stream mentality. Right. The big Gulf Stream always runs northerly.
Yep. So
he swam and he swam and he swam. And through the night, he got to where his eyes swelled completely shut from the salt.
Wow.
So that was the last he could see of the lighthouse. Even though he knew he was gaining on getting closer to the lighthouse, pretty soon I can't see where I'm going. So he decided, he was not a religious man, but like so many do, he rolled over on his back and said, this is it. I can't see where I'm going. I can't go any further. And he lay there and made his peace with the Lord right there, floating somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
And when he did, while he was laying there real quietly, do you know what he heard?
What?
He heard waves rolling up on the beach. He could hear surf.
Oh, gosh.
And that gave him enough energy to roll back over and swim towards the sound. Even though his eyes, there was nothing, it was still dark. So he swam. And the best part of the story, as he told it to me, was what it felt like when his feet hit the sandy bottom on the shoreline. And he said it was the most incredible feeling. He had been out there swimming all night long. So anyway, he came out on the beach right under the launch gantries at Cape Canaveral. He had drifted 45 miles south with a down current, like the Labrador current does here.
Yeah.
Most of the time, our close-in current is going south. So he walked out, and he was in the Canaveral, in the Cape Kennedy at the time, at the Space Center, and it's highly secured, and there's nothing. So what he did was he laid on the beach till the sun got all the way up, and then he got to where he could see a little bit again. He was dying of thirst.
I bet.
Literally.
Yeah.
He walked up the beach till he came to a little cottage that was some caretakers that lived there, and he knocked on the door, and he said, call the police. And then he fell out on their porch. So these people had no idea somebody was missing, so they did call the police, and they came and got him. Meanwhile, the whole crew that had been looking all night long got word that he was alive and was on his way to the hospital, Fish Memorial Hospital in New Smyrna Beach. And he swam 15 miles in 15 hours. He swam 15 miles in 15 hours, keeping a pace of 1 mile per hour, swam all the way to the beach and rescued himself. So that is a story. I thought about that many days as I headed offshore, commercial fishing, and again, like I told a group just the other night I was speaking at, you need to always know where everybody is on your boat and be aware of that at all times. So that's my story for you, Justin. Just hang on tight and let everybody know where you're at.